Paris, 1944. The city was held in the iron grip of occupation. The streets were dangerous, the nights were silent, and fear was the only currency that mattered. But on Rue le Sueur, a wealthy, quiet street near the Arc de Triomphe, the residents were facing a different kind of terror. It wasn't the sound of marching boots that scared them. It was the smell. For 5 days, the chimney of number 21 had been belching out a thick, oily smoke. It carried a stench so foul, so sweet and sickening, that neighbors had to seal their windows. It permeated the curtains and the upholstery. It tasted like chemicals and decay. Finally, assuming a chimney fire had spiraled out of control, the desperate neighbors called the fire brigade. When the firemen arrived, the townhouse was dark and silent. The owner, a charming and respected physician named Dr. Marcel Petiot, was gone. The firefighters broke in, expecting to fight a standard coal fire. They dragged their hoses through the elegant hallway, heading for the source of the heat in the basement. They had no idea they were walking into a crime scene that would change French history. The heat in the basement was suffocating. The air was thick with that terrible, undeniable odor. In the center of the room, a massive coal boiler was roaring at full capacity. But as the firemen approached to extinguish the flames, they realized this wasn't a heating system. It was an incinerator. Scattered across the basement floor were unmistakably human remains. The firemen froze. This wasn't a fire. It was a disposal site. But the true horror was on just what was on the floor. It was what was stacked in the corners. Lined up against the walls were dozens of suitcases. There were mountains of fur coats, men's suits, and, most heartbreaking of all, piles of small children's shoes. It looked like a train station lost and found. The firemen realized instantly that the remains in the furnace didn't belong to just one person. The scale of the disappearance was massive. When the police arrived, the first officer on the scene whispered, "This is not a house. This is a graveyard." Who was the man behind this house of horrors? Dr. Marcel Petiot was a pillar of the community. To the outside world, he was a hero. He was a former mayor, a brilliant doctor who treated the poor for free, and a vocal critic of the Nazis. He was charming, charismatic, and incredibly intelligent. But those who knew him closely saw the cracks in the mask. Since childhood, Petiot had displayed signs of deep instability. He had been expelled from school for violence. He was discharged from the army for psychological unfitness. Yet, his high intelligence allowed him to become a doctor. And when the war started, he saw a golden opportunity. He realized that in a city ruled by fear, hope was the most expensive product he could sell. Petiot created a fake resistance network called Flyox. He whispered to the desperate people of Paris, wealthy Jewish families, resistance fighters, anyone with a target on their back, that he had a secret escape route. He promised he could smuggle them safely to South America. The price for freedom was 25,000 francs per person. He told his victims to pack everything they owned, gold, jewelry, cash, and bonds, because they could never return. Under the cover of darkness, entire families would arrive at number 21, Rue le Sueur, carrying their life savings in suitcases, believing the good doctor was their savior. Petiot played the role perfectly. He welcomed them into his warm home. He reassured them. But then came the final trick. He told them that Argentine authorities required strict inoculations. He said they needed a vaccine before they could leave the country. One by one, he led them into his consulting room for the injection. It wasn't a vaccine. It was a lethal cocktail of poisons. But the horror didn't end with the injection. Police later found that Petiot had modified the house specifically for his dark curiosity. Adjacent to the consulting room was a soundproof chamber with a hidden viewing port, a peephole. Petiot would lock his victims inside, then move to the next room to watch. He didn't just want their money, he wanted to witness their final moments. He watched the light fade from their eyes over and over again. By the time police fully investigated the house, Petiot had vanished into the chaos of the liberation of Paris. The monster of Rue le Sueur was gone. For 7 months, the authorities hunted him, but Petiot pulled off his most audacious trick yet. He didn't run. He grew a beard, adopted the name Captain Valery, and joined the French resistance. He was actually put in charge of hunting down war criminals. The man responsible for dozens of murders was now leading a team of men to catch collaborators. At one point, he was even interviewed by a newspaper about his bravery. He was hiding in plain sight, laughing at the world. He was eventually caught at a metro station, recognized by a sharp-eyed soldier. But even in court, Petiot was defiant. He turned his trial into a show. He admitted to the killings, but claimed every single victim was a German spy or a traitor to France. He claimed he was a patriot doing his duty. He fell asleep during the prosecution's speech. He drew mocking cartoons of the judge. But the evidence was overwhelming. The suitcases, the clothes, the missing families who were certainly not spies. The jury convicted him of 26 murders, though investigators believed the true number was closer to 60. On May 25, 1946, the doctor's time ran out. As he was led to the guillotine, he remained arrogant to the last second. When the executioner reached for him, Petiot pulled away and said, "Gentlemen, I have one last piece of advice. Look away, this will not be pretty." The smoke over Rue le Sueur finally cleared, but the mystery of Dr. Petiot remains. Was he a madman, a genius, or simply a predator who found the perfect place to hide in the middle of a war?